Check it out, I got a pile of compost, 1/2-inch screen right there, big old garbage pail, wheelbarrow, shovel, fork. We're going to sift some compost. Some worms in there, huh? Yeah, I think they're going to go with the compost. We're not going to ask them to leave. I'll do this for a few minutes and then I'll show you what it looks like. Alright, so after 3 quick sifts, this is what we're left with. That'll grow anything. As a matter of fact, we're going to be putting this around our broccoli. There's worms and stuff in there too. Okay, I'll do a little bit more. Probably only going to take another 2 or 3 efforts like that, and I'll have enough for all I need. Alright, so there we have it. That's about, well, close to half of a pail. Any more than that, and I can't lift it. So that would make it difficult to take the next step, which is to get it in the wheelbarrow. Alright, with it sitting right there just like that, all I have to do is lean the wheelbarrow back, and all of the stuff that I made that's in there will transfer into the wheelbarrow. And we'll be good to go. Okay, and then I can go to the back. There's a little hand hold right here. Just kind of scooch up, lift it a little bit, put the camera down, do the rest. You know, you get the point. Alright, so that wasn't much of an effort, and I've already got quite a bit of compost. That's actually usable compost, and it's full of life. Folks, there's so many worms in this. The worms are a clear indicator that you have fertility. They're a clear... Hey, quit eating the compost. The worms, like I said, are a very good indicator of fertility. So, I mean, when you see them in the soils, one form or another, you know that the nutrients are being processed by the living organisms. This is a good example of living soils. What'll make it even better is if I get it near the roots of some of my plants, and that's where we're going to go from here. I've even got a couple more that got to go in the ground today. So let's keep on with the keeping on. So you see, all the while, all I'm really doing is cycling some of the coarse compost into the sifter, and then from the sifter to the pail, and from the pail into the wheelbarrow. That way I can roll it to the plots that it needs to go to. You can see what I'm starting with. It's helpful if you have a large pile of compost to work with. This is a large enough pile for me for the entire 2025 growing season. I've already got even more media right there getting ready to be composted. So, you know, we're looking at the next bit of compost while we begin to take from the previous bit. Before we're done with this pile, we'll have that pile assembled, and some of what we made in the first pile over here, which is not really the first pile, it could be the 41st pile for all I know. What we get here, some of this will go as a mother culture into that stuff over there. The worms, everything. The microarthropods, the arthropods, everything will convey. You know, if there's bees living in this, they'll go too. Everything's going to go. We're gentle, but we move it. And that's really all it is. It's about having a central location for which you can work on making soils. Because making soils is what grows your plants. You know, when we're making soils like this, we're not the least bit concerned with what type of fertilizer to use, because it's just not necessary. This is my fertilizer. Right here. Soil food web. And I'll probably take some of this, get a little bit extra, and make a fresh batch of compost tea while I'm in the process. Alright, so I guess we're off to the races. Alrighty, so back to my original project, and that was to get enough of this compost so that I could surround the new brassicas that I have in ground. Once they're surrounded, I won't have to feed them. I won't have to do a whole lot to them. They're just going to basically grow. So we're heading in that direction. Alright, so here we are. This is today's work. Little detail that I have to do. I've got to put more compost around these cloches. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Cloche. I've got to put more compost around the cloches because they need to be under cloches for one more day. There's babies in there. Huh? Yeah, I've actually got some seedlings that are out here hardening off. In the midst of all of those seedlings, or maybe I should say the other way around, surrounding those seedlings are other parent plants. There's the older parent plants that were planted last year. They grew, they made lots of broccoli, and now we're moving on to a new set of plants. So the new set of plants were planted, I guess, a week or so, maybe a week and a half ago, and the succession plants are going in today. So within this midst, there's some potted seedlings, some plant starts, and there might even be a couple of pots that have two, so I might have to separate them and give them their own little home. But that's what we're doing. I'm going to go ahead and throw some compost around these cloches. It's going to level everything off really, really well, because I noticed the last time I put the compost in, as I was walking around, I compressed it down. So we're making some compost tea down there too when it rains. And everything's going to be fed really, really well. But I want to get more on there because this area hasn't been regenerated in a while. So yeah, sometimes you might see a project like this go on for several days as we're preparing things and moving on the project a little at a time. In the back over there, you can see some plant waste that's hanging out on the ground. Probably just cover that up with some compost and let the microbes destroy it and eat it and reassociate it with the plants. So, there you have it. So, finished compost, shaking shepherd, and I'm going to start slinging some. And I went ahead and I spread all of that compost, side dressed that compost right up against the stems of the broccoli. Several of these broccoli plants, there's two types. I've got Sun Gold King and Walton. Interspersed between each other, the Sun Gold usually does better here. So I've got that front and center closer to the sun. On the whole, these particular plants have been through several freeze-thaw cycles. Even the newest babies that I just put in the ground were subjected to some freezing cold temperatures the past couple of nights. From today forward, it's my understanding that they won't be subjected to these cold temperatures anymore, because we should slip into the upper 30s and low 40s, at least for the next foreseeable future. After that point, we should already start to have florets developing on the top of these broccolis, and we'll begin to harvest. You can see I've removed the cloches and I left the EMT hoops in place. Since there's still a chance that we could get freezing temperatures, there's really no point in me removing them. What else can I say about this? Before I put everything away, I go ahead and I clean off all of my tools. I go ahead and I rinse the starter cups that I used to grow these particular seedlings, and I'll clean off my bulb planter. And that's basically it. Once that happens, I'm ready to put some water on the plants, and they're ready to see the sunshine. So as far as where we go from here goes, in my experience, the compost that I put down onto these plants above them, above the soil, is more than sufficient. The compost that I apply to these plants as a side dressing is more than sufficient to meet the bulk of their nutrient needs. From time to time, if I do happen to see any yellowing, I can make a simple fish hydrolysate application, and those applications are usually anywhere from about 1 or 2 tablespoons per gallon to as much as 4 or 5 ounces in 5 gallons of water. So I do let the plant tell me what it wants. I let the plant tell me what it needs. And occasionally I'll come out and I'll inspect some plant sap, and I'll look closely at the leaves to see if there's been any chewing, any insects that may be dining on them. It's possible that they may not have enough sugars in them to keep from being predated upon by the piercing insects. We can get some aphids on them from time to time, but they're very easily managed. Normally the cold temperatures and a little spray of water is all it takes. But I know that when I start to see things like aphids, I may be having a deficiency, a feeding deficiency. So if I see any aphids or white flies or spider mites or anything of that nature, I'm usually going to want to act pretty quickly. In my mind, seeing these things is definitely indicative of a nutrient cycling issue. My plants are relatively low in sugar bricks, and that's something that's easily accessible. We can look at the leaves, we can test them with the Brix refractometer, and we can make the necessary adjustments to the soil to help improve that in a relatively short time. If I notice that I might see some small holes on the leaves from slugs, I have the option to do as I suggested in an earlier video, and that's to sprinkle some elemental sulfur around the base of the plants. I can also utilize a liquefied sulfur to spray on the leaves, something I don't always like to do, but it is something that will work. It is a very effective strategy. It will work to gently neutrify the leaves with sulfur reactive chemistries that will make it more difficult for insects like slugs to get on them.
They don't typically like those things. So, just like pouring salt on them, they're going to want to take refuge somewhere else away from your plants. If we've got those piercing insects, I might make an application of liquid plant juice that I ferment myself utilizing brassicas from previous grows, and make a small application of that. I might make an application of fish hydrolysate using the fish amino acids to improve the health and the vigor of the plants and to help the plants to produce more sugar throughout the day utilizing the sun's rays and photosynthesis. Once these things sort of start to culminate and occur, we'll see the insects pulling back away from the plants. Right now, there's no predation, but I know there are insects in the garden, there are insects all around me, so it's necessary for me to keep a close eye on them. On the whole, because of the compost that's in place, there's also plenty of life, plenty of microbes, lots of worms. You all saw the worms earlier. And every one of those is engaged in active nutrient cycling to help improve the plant's ability to, well, breathe, to respire, to make new leaves, and to ultimately make fruit or flower. So we're going to continue along those lines to most certainly pay close attention to the constitution of our soils, make sure we're not seeing any weird things going on, make sure we're not seeing insects accumulate in one area, make sure we're not seeing slugs later in the day, make sure we're not seeing whiteflies underneath the leaves. And there's a lot that we can do about those things. But the primary thing that we do is to focus on the fertility of the soils. I'd rather focus on the fertility of the soils than put things like insecticides all over my plants. The second I do that, we end up with other problems, intricate problems, problems that I don't really want to deal with. So on the whole, we want to start with a healthy plant. We want to make sure that plant doesn't show us any signs of being hungry. And when we're side dressing with compost, quality compost that's biologically enhanced with microbiology, you just don't typically have those problems. So we are so far ahead of some of those problems now that I don't see it quite as often as I used to. And when I do see it, I tend to react faster because I know exactly what to do. So on the whole, these broccoli plants are going to go ahead and grow and produce handsomely right up until the point where the summer or spring temperatures are so prohibitively hot that they intend to bolt. And if they do bolt, I'm actually going to allow them to bolt and continue to grow because I'd like to get some seeds. What happens after we see flowers? We see seed pods. Once we see those seed pods, we can see them develop all the way, and I'll harvest those seed pods and I will allow them to dry out, and I will keep those seeds to be utilized later on. Sometimes I'll plant the whole seed pod, sometimes I'll just break them up. But um, basically, the idea is to collect those seeds from the previous season's plants so that you can take those seeds forward to your next planting event. And while it's not always possible to get your broccoli to bolt and seed in some regions, my brassicas tend to do that the second the temperature goes up over about 100 degrees. So it's not uncommon for me to have broccoli survive through the 100 plus degree temperatures. Normally, after they survive through that, all they're really doing is sharing sugars with the soils and giving me a placeholder so that I can put a baby plant underneath them and in their shadow when the temperature and climate is
Right, so I
favorable.
waited for the sun to be in a perfect position to get really, really good footage of these things. I want y'all to see them. If you can even use your pinch to zoom. You can see some of the coloration from the plants that were in here when the freezing was going on. Is a little redder. You can see some, if I show you down there a little closer, you see some freeze out on that leaf right there, the little white spots. You can see lots of little gnats and things. I suspect those are fungus gnats flying all over the place. And look, there's even a floret here. But all these guys are doing really, really good now. Okay? Over here, there, look at the reds. Anthocyanins. Yeah, that one was ready to go toe-to-toe. And that's pretty much it. So, they're looking
So
good.
if you haven't done so already, please go ahead and click the like button, click the subscribe button, and consider sharing this content with someone who you love. Outside of that, God bless. Peace.